2 more days until free agency. 2 more days. The time of this recording, it's the Saturday the 8th. Free agency begins on Monday, and I'm dropping part 3 to the ongoing series that I've been doing so far. If you guys don't know, I've been predicting where all of the top 100 free agents will go. I already have the first 2 videos out, detailing where the 100th best free agent to the 50th best free agent will go. If you haven't checked those out, check it out now. In this video, I'll be predicting where the 50th best free agent to the 25th best free agent will go. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Like, sub, do all the things. I'll see you at the end. Peace. 50, Justin Reid, Chiefs, safety. I'm pretty sure the Chiefs are prepared for this moment. Justin Reid is a good player, excellent box safety for the Chiefs, but I think the franchise will move on from him after this season. They don't really have cash to spend on Reid and already drafted his replacement last year in round 2. I can't imagine that's a coincidence. I really doubt he's staying, and with that being said, we look to teams in need of safety help. When you look at Justin Reid's abilities, primarily in elite run support and tackling, and look at some teams' needs, things begin to match up. I think the Bears will address the safety position this offseason. Their need of reliability on the back end has been apparent throughout the last few seasons, and having a guy who can provide that run support as well as Reid can is the one step in building that secondary through. An instant floor raiser on defense with playoff experience. Very useful for the Bears. 49, Chase Young, edge rusher, New Orleans Saints. We all know the situation the Saints are in, so I'm not even going to entertain the idea of them re-signing anyone. They need to be focused on cutting cap liabilities, something LA has been doing. The Chargers are not only most likely not going to sign Khalil Mack, spoiler alert, sorry, but also are probably going to release Joey Bosa, meaning they're absolutely barren at the edge rusher position and need some sort of support, which is why I have them signing Chase Young. Chase Young has quietly been an alright player for the Saints last season. Now, he wasn't out of this world or anything, like he isn't going to replace Khalil Mack's and Joey Bosa's production or even be an edge one, but he completes the role of being a serviceable piece off the edge, a very good starter for the team, affordable, and having solid potential. I mean, he was the number 2 overall pick. I think this is a match made in heaven. 48, Naji Harris, Pittsburgh. I doubt Naji returns to the Steelers. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I think he can return to the Steelers, but if he does, it won't be until he takes a full cycle of free agency. The Steelers have a replacement in place already, and they don't need to re-sign Naji, so I doubt they prioritize his return. And I think Naji would get a better deal from teams that could use him. And in this example, it will be the Raiders. I don't want to be on a dead horse, but if you watch the previous 2 iterations of this, you know that the Raiders are not going through a hard reset, so they're still going to add talent to the roster, and their running back room could use assistance. Naji Harris still is young. He's consistent. He's a 1,000-yard rusher, and he's a pretty good receiving back. For a team that needs a running back, you can't really go wrong with adding him to your team. With the Raiders having money to get it done, this just seems like such a Raiders move to do. 47, Dan Jones Jr., left tackle, Pittsburgh. Look away, Steelers fans. Another free agent that's most likely gonna be going after this season. Now, it's not the end of the world for y'all, since these are 2 average players, but still, it can't be good to see 2 starters go. But it looks like Dan Jones won't return. He's a solid tackle, or had been for the past season, along with being the only consistent piece on a susceptible Steelers offensive line. I have him heading to the Jaguars. Despite the poor record, the Jags are still a competitive team. They have their quarterback of the future, their team around him just kinda stunk, namely their left tackle. Now, Dan Jones isn't the greatest, but has shown starting capability on a consistent basis, something that fills a major hole on the Jags line and improves the situation for Trevor Lawrence heading into the Liam Cohen era. 46, Alaric Jackson, tackle, Rams. I swear to God, I had a script written for him, but I just found out that he already re-signed back to the Rams. I'll put the script on the screen, but I mean, yeah, y'all get the gist. I predicted originally that he'd go to the Patriots, so I mean, I was wrong on that, which sucks, but this does prove that I wasn't lying about correctly predicting Zach Martin and Elijah Molden's destination. So I'll take a win on that one. 45, Bobby Wagner, linebacker, Commanders. This is an easy one, like a stupidly easy one. I'd donate a kidney if Bobby Wagner doesn't re-sign with the Commanders. He was the heart and soul of this revitalized Dan Quinn defense. There's absolutely no replacing him. I seriously doubt B-Wags is leaving a Super Bowl contender. There's mutual interest, mutual desperation to stay together. Bobby Wagner is so obviously gonna resign. 44, Russell Wilson, quarterback, Steelers. We finally made it, Russell Wilson. I truly have no idea where he's going. But I know for sure he isn't returning to the Steelers. Not saying he's a bad quarterback, but his underperformance down the stretch made it very obvious that the Steelers could do much better at the quarterback position. So I think Russell Wilson will hit free agency. The Giants are an option. I wouldn't be surprised if they use Wilson as a mentor slash bridge. They were linked to Matthew Stafford and definitely are going to add multiple quarterbacks through free agency and the draft. We could also reunite Russell Wilson with Pete Carroll, and that can work, but I don't know if that's going to do anything but put the Raiders in purgatory. So I don't know what's going to happen, genuinely. But I think I'm going to throw a curveball here and say the Browns will sign Russell Wilson. Now, we don't know for sure what the Browns are going to do. They could draft a quarterback, they could draft Hunter or Carter or someone. Regardless of that, Wilson kind of fits them. He could work as a mentor for whatever young quarterback the Browns may bring in, or he could just flat out be their quarterback. The Browns have expressed interest in an established guy, and despite Russ's shortcomings, at the very least, he's a warm body that could play quarterback, and he's not a sexual predator. All right, next. 43, Keenan Allen, wide receiver, Bears. Keenan was the only real consistent option in the Bears wide receiver core. He obviously isn't the superstar he once was, but an inexpensive slot and route technician could work marvelously as that safety blanket for Caleb Williams. I'll keep it quick. The Bears have the money and Keenan is pretty cheap. I think they'll resign. 42, Deyo Odeyingbo, edge, Colts. At the time I'm writing this script, Odeyingbo is officially testing free agency, and for teams looking for an edge, he should be a very good option. He isn't a star, we're not at that tier yet, but he's strung together 2 very solid seasons. If you want great floor raising from the edge rusher position, Deyo is your guy. That's why I'll give Todd Bowles support off the edge. Last season, the Bucs really lacked that consistent presence. Even though they don't have the money to get a big dog like Khalil Mack or Myles Garrett, I mean, at this point, even signing Deyo is stretching their finances thin. I think this is a realistic upgrade to their edge rotation. Drafting a guy too wouldn't hurt either. 41, Mekhi Becton, guard, Eagles. I'm gonna keep this one quick. The possibility of him moving on is there. Like, there's always a chance, and the Eagles have a lot of people to pay. But I don't think he will. Maybe he can go to the Jags or the Bengals or something, but I don't see him leaving the Eagles, team which he loves and just won a Super Bowl with, to go to a worse new environment. So yeah, I predict him to stay. Maybe he'll take a pay cut or something. 40, Levi Onwuzurike, defensive lineman, Lions. The Lions have 2 major decisions to make concerning some expiring deals. The relevant ones are Levi Onwuzurike here and Carlton Davis. I just don't see them signing both. They can if they really want to stretch their cap space, but with big contracts coming up, I think they prefer the financial flexibility over keeping both players. And if we're splitting hairs, I think Carlton stays over Levi. Spoiler alert for when Carlton pops up later down this list. The Lions' defensive line problems are a bit bigger than Levi. The interior defensive linemen are more replaceable than cornerback ones. And when you add the slight injury concern for Levi, the decision gets slightly easier. I think Onwuzurike enters free agency, which does expose a very good defensive tackle to the open market. And the team I project to sign him is the New York Giants. Now, don't call me biased. The last player I predicted the Giants to sign was the 100th best player in this free agency class. I sort of explained why the Giants need this in the BJ Hill segment. Go back to player number 52 for context, but the lack of a sufficient tackle besides Dexter Lawrence really limited the potential of the defensive tackle. The Giants have tried to stick solid players beside him like Ashawn Robinson or Raheem Nunes-Roches, but none of them has been a legit threat like Onwuzurike could be for the Giants. He directly slides into that second defensive tackle spot and makes them one of the most complete and dangerous defensive lines in the NFL. 38, Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton has served his tenure as a Giant for a while. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's the longest tenured Giant. And even though he may be a slightly above average receiver, him willingly going through 6 years on the Giants is reason enough to applaud. Unfortunately, I just don't see him extending that tenure. I know he stuck through a lot. You know, he's been loyal, but every person has a breaking point, right? Like at some point he has to snap. Like if he's going to leave at any moment in his career, it has to be after a 3-14 season where the Giants got rid of the quarterback and the regime nearly got obliterated. I'm not completely sure where he'll go, but his speed and field stretching ability, while still being a pretty well-rounded player, is alluring to a lot of teams. If it's time to complete the prediction, I'd select the Panthers. It's not rocket science, man. The Panthers need some help on their receiving corps. Now, if I'm being honest, this sounds like another wide receiver 2 being added on a squad full of wide receiver 2s, but the Panthers were lacking consistent speed on this team, and Darius Slayton mitigates that as an elite fuel stretcher for Bryce Young to rely on. 37, Juwan Johnson, tight end, Saints. I can see Johnson filling out a lot of holes on rosters across the NFL. Athletic tight end with a large catch radius and decent speed. He's a solid vertical threat for a team that needs to add production in their receiving game. One of the least productive tight end receiving groups were the Indianapolis Colts, who trotted out a trio of Kylan Grayson, Drew Ogletree, and Mo Alley Cox, none of which eclipsed 150 yards that season. The receiving production from their tight end room stunk and needs a complete overhaul. Juwan Johnson is an excellent receiving threat who provides some sort of option at the position, and I will guarantee you this right now, he will get more than 150 yards this season. 36, Hollywood Brown, wide receiver, Chiefs. Hollywood Brown really could have had a great season this year. He's been a borderline very good receiving option for the past few seasons. Many people thought heading to the Chiefs he'd ascend and at the very least be a pretty good wide receiver 1 for Mahomes and the Chiefs. Unfortunately, he broke his foot and that completely derailed his season. He's much more capable of having a better season than he just had. Despite that, I don't think Brown is a priority for the Chiefs. He isn't expensive, which would make him valuable to other teams, but the Chiefs aren't in a real position to keep him and most likely would look to upgrade, which leaves him to free agency. Now, Brown is a safe wide receiver 2 with a pretty high ceiling and is coming off of an injured season, making him cheap. There will be a market for him, I guarantee it. I just have no clue where he will sign. The Bills are an option, but I don't really see it as anything more than a lateral move from Amari Cooper to Hollywood Brown, who'll most likely be asked to be the biggest outside threat, which isn't the most proficient role for him at this stage in his career, and that's why I'll send him to the Steelers. The Steelers had no receiving weapons outside of Pickens for the entirety of last year. They mainly used Van Jefferson to stretch the field too. Hollywood Brown not only would be the most well-rounded receiver, but would also provide a speedy edge to the offense that would make it more versatile. Steelers is his destination. 35, Mike Hilton. Hilton struggled a bit this season. He wasn't horrible by any stretch of the means, but with the struggles the Bengals defense went through at times, he picked up a bit of that blame. Don't get me wrong, Hilton is still an incredible slot corner, one of the best in the league, but his age combined with his struggles opens the door for some questions on whether the Bengals will bring him back. They gotta pay a lot of dudes, and Mike Hilton isn't a priority, so I think he will hit free agency. For where he will sign, I mean, he's linked to the Saints for some reason. Like, he's like really linked to them. Like, it's not a secret at all, which I don't really get for either side, but where there's smoke, there's fire. So I would send him to the Saints. 34, Nick Bolton, linebacker, Chiefs. Alright, this one is tough. There's no real way I can predict what would happen to Bolton, but I will say the Chiefs deciding not to franchise tag him tells me they want him to test free agency. Bolton is a good piece. He's only 24 and has been an anchor on a Super Bowl winning D, meaning some teams wouldn't mind picking him up. I have him heading to LA to join up with the Rams. The Rams have enjoyed the fruits of their young and upcoming defense last season, with Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk carrying it up on the defensive line. An improvement in linebacker support could round out this defense for years to come. They do have other issues on the offensive side, but who cares? 33, Byron Murphy, Vikings cornerback. The Vikings made a move to shift around Murphy's void year to past the start of the new league year. This gives both sides more time to negotiate. The intention from both sides is clear though. They want to get a deal done mutually, and why wouldn't they? Murphy is part of a building Vikings team that won 14 games last season. They both want to remain together and it's obvious. So I'll make it quick. Murphy resigns. 32, Milton Williams, Eagles. Milton is a high production, low rep kind of guy. He was very good for the Eagles in limited snaps behind Carter and Davis, so he's not a priority for them, as they got bigger fish to fry, which is why I think he hits free agency. He's a good player and a great addition to an interior defensive line rotation, and that means most people would be willing to shell out dough for his services, namely the Chicago Bears. The Bears desperately need a defensive line overhaul, and in this universe I created, I gave them Josh Uche. That obviously isn't enough. Williams is a high potential addition to any defensive line rotation and is a great base for the Bears to use that influx of talent. With the cap space they have, Williams should be more than affordable for them. This addition makes their pass rush all the more threatening. 31, Cameron Bynum, safety, Vikings. I've had this rule throughout the video. Two free agents on the same team rarely both get signed, and I unfortunately doubt I'll break the rules here. Now, the Vikings have shown signs that they're actively pursuing Byron Murphy, despite having mutual interest. There are no signs that Cam Bynum is receiving the same treatment, and that is why I think he'll leave. Now, he's a great player, threw together 2 very good seasons with the Vikings, and he hits the open market. Any team would be lucky to have him. So, I have him heading over to the Jaguars. The Jaguars' safety room was already not the greatest, but this offseason, I had them losing Andre Cisco. Yeah, go back to player number 88 to get more context. The Jaguars aren't going through a deep rebuild, and they are actively looking for talent. Bynum is a direct upgrade to a pretty bad defense last year, and at the very least, it's a start for them. Other options are the Bears and the Texans. 30, Osa Odighizuwa, interior defensive lineman, Dallas Cowboys. Let's keep this as quick as possible. I've been letting so many Cowboys free agents go due to 2 things. 1, desperately saving to extend CD and Parsons, and 2, doing by all means necessary to keep Osa. Now, I'd love for him to leave. As a Giants fan, shoot, I'd love for him to join up with the Giants and rush aside next to Lawrence. But with the performance in the second half of the season, he's definitely a priority to re-sign, which is why I think the Cowboys would do everything to keep him. And with the rumors that they might trade Micah Parsons, I think keeping Odighizuwa would even become more of a priority. Whether it's a franchise tag or an extension, he'll be back. Editor's note, I was right. Osa did resign an extension, I think a couple of days ago. So I'll take my W on that. I mean, I promise I made the script before he signed. So, but yeah, on to the next one. 29, Tyron Smith, left tackle, Jets. Another part of this disaster class of a season. Tyron Smith was brought in to be the blindside protector for Aaron Rodgers, and he wasn't horrible. He's a multi-time All-Pro for a reason. But on a prove-it year, he underperformed and got hurt. He'll be sought after in free agency. A vet left tackle who has shown as high performance as he had for the past few years is always needed. I think he especially slots in well as right tackle for a contending team. With his injury concern and age, he's an extremely affordable option for anyone, despite the disaster class that was this last season for the Jets. Byron Smith was still a solid tackle, and I think is capable of performing above average, which is why I think he'll go to the 49ers. Tyron Smith is a direct upgrade over whoever they got. The Niners offensive line outside of Trent Williams isn't that great. He'll be inexpensive enough, and he matches the Niners timeline. This is an easy cash in for them. 28, James Daniels, guard, Steelers. After a torn Achilles early this season, it's tough to imagine a return to the Steelers from James Daniels. Multiple insiders say so. That doesn't mean he isn't a good player though. Before his week 4 injury, he was having a career best season, especially in the run blocking department. Unfortunately though, his injury and overall failure of the Steelers have led them to cutting him loose. Now, James Daniels is still young and despite the injury, an attractive player. And actually, looking at the script now, I predicted the Bears would sign him. They just traded for 2 guards and now he's ineligible. So now I have to pivot. And I think I'll pivot to the Texans. Texans offensive line was pretty bad last season. CJ Stroud took a huge step back, mainly because of the poor play from it. And even though the Texans are rolling in dough, fixing the offensive line has to be a main priority for them. Adding James Daniels, borderline elite guard at his best, is perfect. And the offensive line that was holding them back is mitigated completely. 27, Kevin Zeitler. I really don't want to speed through this one because there is a semi-chance that Kevin Zeitler leaves the Lions, but he was just too good of a guard and the Lions have way too much cap space to just let him go. Zeitler is older and honestly relatively cheap for how good he actually is. A 1-year, $10 million deal, which is what's projected for him, is more than sufficient enough with the cap room that they have to get a deal done. Again, there's mutual interest and they've reportedly been in talks for weeks. It's tough to see a way where he doesn't get re-signed. 26, Asante Samuel Jr. Asante Samuel had himself a down year. After a few seasons of very stellar play, Asante struggled to adjust a bit to the new system LA put him in. For the first 4 games he played this season, he struggled a bit, including his tackling, which despite always being a problem, ballooned into a bigger issue. That being said, Asante Samuel is much better than how he played last season. With his youth and his previous display of high-level play, his ability as a potential cornerback 1 is worth it. That being said, it's not likely the Chargers allow him to stay. I think his poor play and his struggle to fit into the new system and defense made it so that there's no real reason to keep him long term. They can find cornerback help elsewhere. And with Asante in free agency, I think the Niners will snap him up. Tarvarius Ward is their number 1 corner, and he's 100% leaving. Like, the words "I'm leaving" came out of his mouth. More on that later, by the way. But that means the Niners will need a replacement, and one that's not too expensive. That's exactly where Asante Samuel comes in. Samuel played poorly in his short time last season, but he's still a pretty good defensive back, like I mentioned before. With the Ward leaving for the Niners, Asante Samuel could be a high ceiling replacement for them, and could solidify their secondary. Finished. It was good, right? Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is part 3 of 4. Last video before we get to the top 25. I'm hoping I could get that one out by tomorrow. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't started it yet, and these take a really long time, but I do it for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Appreciate the support, everything. It's been fun. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.